Shri Vallabhadisha ki jai ho. Shri Govardhanath ji ki jai ho. Shri Vraja ki jai ho. So Vaishnavan ko jai ho. Jai Shri Krishna. Radhe Radhe Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Varta 27, the story of Madhav Bhatt, Kashmiri from Kashmir. The reading is the 37th day, day 37 today, Bhav Prakash. In the eternal Leela, Madhav Bhatt is a very skillful servant of Sri Yashoda ji. She is responsible for making Sri Thakurji's bed and fetching water. She is part of the group of Kumari Radhika ji's Sakhis, and her name is Ratna. Madhav Das was born into a Brahmin family in Kashmir. He first of all became the disciple of one Keshav Bhatt, who was a well-known speaker in Kashmir. He used to come to listen whenever Sri Acharya ji gave discourses on his Sri Subodhini ji. He was so proud of his learning that he wanted to sit on an elevated chair to listen. Madhav Das, on the other hand, sat down humbly and listened carefully, and when the discourse was over, Madhav Das would go and sit with the group of Sri Acharyaji's disciples. Keshav Bhatt once asked Madhav Das why he never came to listen to his own discourses, but preferred to laugh and joke with the Vaishnavas. Madhav Das told him that he preferred those chats with Sri Acharya's disciples to his discourses. Hearing this, Keshav Bhatt decided that Madhav Das was no longer of any use to him and decided to hand him over to Sri Acharya-ji. After some days, when Keshav Bhatt was leaving home to go home, he said to Sri Acharya-ji, "I have heard your discourses, therefore I am presenting you this Madhav Das, who is no longer of any use to me." From then on, Madhav Das began to live with Sri Acharya-ji, and Keshav Bhatt went home. One Vaishnava asked Sri Acharya-ji, "Madhav Das was able to hear your discourses, but Keshav Bhatt was not, nor could he absorb their purport. Madhav Das has understood them, but his teacher did not. Why is this?" Sri Acharya-ji explained, "Keshav Bhatt listened from an elevated seat, and so he could not understand a word. Madhav Das, however, took a humble position, and therefore learnt everything." Bhav Prakash. If one listens to discourses with the humble mode of a servant, then one will absorb everything. A proud person will never ever understand the discourse. Madhav Das was related to the eternal Leela, and therefore gained the divine reward of Sri Acharya-ji's spoken words, whilst Keshav Bhatt was in no way related to the Leela. Rather, he adhered to the lawfully limited path. He was only worthy of liberation and residence in heaven. Thus he could not reap the fruits of Sri Acharya-ji's teachings. Keshav Bhatt had to leave that place and go home. Part 1 continued. Sri Acharya-ji initiated Madhav Das with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandh. He then inquired. Sri Acharya-ji told him to serve the Lord. Madhav Das' grandfather had a swarupa of child Krishna which had always been in the family. Madhav Das used to offer him tulsi leaves and sandal paste, incense and ghee flames, and worship in the way of puja, or worship according to the worshipper's needs, calling the deity to reside and leave the deity when required. He asked Sri Acharya-ji what he should do. Sri Acharya-ji told him to bring the swarup to him, and then he performed bathing the deity with 5 nectars and gave the Sri Thakurji into Madhav Das's responsibility. It didn't take him too long to learn all the ways of service according to the path of grace, so he then took Sri Acharya-ji's permission to return to Kashmir, where he continued offering loving service to his Sri Thakurji. After a few days, Sri Thakurji began to speak directly to Madhav Das. There was a well-endowed householder who lived in Madhav Das's village. He had a son who died, and he was very upset and loudly wailing, "Oh, if only someone can bring him back to life, otherwise I will also give up my life." He fell on the floor and rolled about. One Vaishnava came there and saw the state of affairs. He remarked that when there was a great Vaishnava like Madhav Das living in the village, then this should not be happening. Hearing this, the householder came running to see Madhav Das. He bowed to Madhav Das and began to bemoan the situation. "You are a great soul," he said. "Please revive my son, otherwise I will also give up my life." Madhav Das felt very sorry for him and recited one Sanskrit verse in front of Sri Thakurji. You are merciful. In what way are you merciful? Only you have mercy on the helpless. Mercy is to show compassion to the sad. You are the only one who can do this. You are the only one who can uplift the whole world. All the scriptures praise you alone. This kind of mercy is your beauty. Therefore, please put an end to this suffering. Hearing this verse, Sri Thakurji remarked, so many fancy words. If you feel like being kind to him, just go to tell him his son will live. Madhav Das did just this. The householder did not believe that this would work because Madhav Das had not given the boy any medicine. He had only said the words. However, at that moment, a man came running from the householder's home saying that the boy was alive. Congratulations! The householder ran home and witnessed for himself and began to give praise. He began to praise Sri Madhav Das no end because simply on his say-so alone the boy had come back to life. That night Madhav Das thought to himself that he should not have done this, for now so many people would come to him that he would not be able to live peacefully in the village. In the middle of the night he packed his Sri Thakurji into a travelling box and taking his lord with him he left that place. He went to Adel to live with Sri Acharyaji. Therefore it is very important for a Vaishnava to think deeply before carrying out such acts of compassion. If a Vaishnava were to become too important in the world through such acts, then he would have to leave the dwelling place in order to sustain his own righteous path. Otherwise it could bring suffering in its wake. Vaishnavas should show worldly behaviour in order to live in the world. Their behaviour should never invite any kind of sadness to Sri Thakurji, neither should the Vaishnavas experience any kind of grief. Madhav Das was totally capable, even so he had to leave that place. A Vaishnava must always think before acting. Madhav Das was very good at writing. He was the scribe for Sri Acharyaji's commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Sri Subodhaniji. At the places where he did not understand, he would stop writing and listen to Sri Acharyaji's explanation. Only then would he write it down. Madhav Das made sure that he never stuck his feet out towards Sri Acharyaji. In the scriptures it is written that one should never sit in a proud pose in front of anyone whom they should respect, and especially they must not show their feet. Part 4. Once when Sri Acharyaji was travelling, Madhav Das was with him and was recording all of his Sri Subodhaniji. He needed to pass water in the middle of the night. He went outside and there were some thieves, and there some thieves attacked him with swords. As they were striking him, he called out Sri Acharyaji's name and then left his body. Some Vaishnavas performed his last rites. One of them asked Sri Acharyaji why such a great Vaishnava had met this kind of death. Sri Acharyaji explained that Madhav Das would meet no obstacle in his passage to his true goal. However, he had at one time committed an offence for which this was the punishment. The Vaishnava asked what it was. Sri Acharyaji explained that whilst he had put flowers on his Sri Thakurji's bed, a needle had remained within them, and Madhav Das failed to notice this. The needle stuck into Sri Thakurji's body. For this offence he met with his fate. However, he had spoken the name of the Lord as he left his body, and therefore he would be delivered. He attained Srinathji's lotus feet. Now, however, he was absolved of any other result. Bhav Prakash. Sri Acharyaji has never allowed the placing of flowers on Sri Thakurji's bed. The flowers that would be used would be worldly and surely have sharp thorns. They also wither very quickly and stain the bedclothes. Flowers should be used in the bedchamber but not put on the bed itself. They are used for their fragrance. Flowers have their own significance in the eternal Leela. There they are very tender and may be used to prepare beds of flowers. Madhav Das had used flowers in a wrong manner, and Sri Thakurji did not like this. The needle was concealed in the flowers, and Madhav Das had to be punished for this, whereby all Vaishnavas learnt this lesson. Sri Acharyaji has taught certain ways for the Seva, and the rules should be followed for the Seva and for behaviour as well. Vaishnavas should not make up their own rules. Even if something was going on in the eternal Leela, it should not necessarily be reiterated by Vaishnavas except where indicated by Sri Acharyaji or Sri Gosaiji. Then will the Lord be soon pleased. Madhav Das had previously served his Sri Thakurji in the lawful way, wherein a bed of flowers is allowed. That had been offensive, and this was the punishment for it. He was still accepted back into the Leela. By taking shelter in Sri Acharyaji, Madhav Das paid for all his offences in just this one lifetime. There were no more obstacles in his way. Such is the power of taking shelter in Sri Acharyaji. All offences are mitigated, and entrance to the Leela is guaranteed. Part 4 continued. Madhav Das left his body. Sri Acharyaji stopped dictating his Sri Subodhini. He regarded this as the Lord's wish to not reveal any more than had been written down by Madhav Das. There is really no end to Madhav Das's story. Bhav Prakash. Sri Thakurji wanted to call Sri Acharyaji back to him, and 3 times he called. Twice he did not come. When Madhav Das was called back due to this offence, Sri Thakurji gave his 3rd order. Then Sri Acharyaji wrote his Antakarana Prabodh treatise, an appeal to my heart, and subsequently also left this world. This is the underlying reason for all of this story. Thus concludes Varta 27, the story of Madhav Das Bhatt Kashmiri, although there is truly no end to his story. So we conclude the reading today, part 37, and tomorrow we will continue with Varta 28. Shri Naji ki jai, Shri Vallabhadisha ki jai, Shri Vrajdham ki jai ho. Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.